people like to pretend that our impact on the earth and its inhabitants isn't as negative as it really is.
Yeah.
People just ignore it. They're in denial about it.
Yeah.
But,
It's a hard argument. I mean, it's not a kind of argument people want to hear, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Anti-procreation.
So we need to make more children.
what do you say?
We need more kids. We need more good people in this world.
We need more people taking care of kids who are in need of homes, like up for adoption. That's where the need is. No one needs to come into the world. There's no need for that. And at what cost? How do we impact the planet and its inhabitants?
Yeah, and then the people that are here.
I just think there are a lot of holes in that logic. I don't think you're 100% wrong, but I think there are a lot of like holes that would not like.
What are the holes? Oh, what are the holes that you would say?
Because it's good to have kids. It's good to have like a family. Like I want kids one day, and I want to teach them to be strong and kind and very, very strong. Give them tough love.
Well, you are creating unnecessary harm and suffering for someone by bringing them into the world.
That is always going to be this world as long as we live.
Well, it doesn't have to be. There's plenty of people who aren't having children like myself.
It's a personal choice. We're all allowed to have choices.
Well, it's not a personal choice if it affects someone else.
No,
It's a personal choice
have
to
kids.
it's a personal choice to have kids, but once you bring someone into the world, it's not personal anymore because now your choice has affected someone else.
One of the best things I want for myself is to love someone, a smaller version of me. Like if someone
That's very egoic. That's very selfish.
if someone wants that, that's perfectly okay. If someone doesn't want that, that's perfectly okay. We are allowed to have choices.
It is disturbing. It's very disturbing that you want to force someone into the world just to love you and to be a mini you. That's kind of gross. What you think?
I don't have any kids.
You don't have any kids?
No.
You never wanted kids?
No. I wanted when I was younger.
Well,
On the family name. But I realized that was the wrong idea to have
yeah,
kids.
it's not important to carry on the family name. Thank you.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's natural.
There's so many.
The only problem we have is that we don't have enough good parents.
Well, that's because
to bring up good kids.
that's because there's not enough good humans. Humans are.
I'm going to leave you on that.
Okay.
They're fucking dumb.
Why is that?
In South Korea, there's a 72% birth gap. There's 72% people below the age of 50 than there are above.
Okay.
In 20 years, there's no South Korea. It's done.
Well, if people don't want to have kids there, they shouldn't have to have kids. People should never have kids if they don't want to have kids. No one should come into this world as an undesired child.
Do you know what the right side of history is, buddy?
What is the right side history?
It's the side of history that has kids and families.
I think it's a side of history that prevents unnecessary suffering and harm and death.
Life is suffering and harm, dumbass.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to impose that onto someone. That's evil.
It's not evil.
It is.
No.
You're creating unnecessary suffering and harm for someone. That's evil.
Like I said, life is suffering and harm. It's part of the process.
It doesn't have to be. That's cruel.
Of course it does.
If
Animals
you
kill
impose
prey.
that onto someone, that's being cruel. That's a cruel act.
And what is good? Exactly.
Well, what is a good reason to have kids?
What is good?
What is good? Preventing unnecessary suffering and harm.
You're defining
prior-
good by the absence of suffering? Are you stupid?
And prioritizing already existing life that's in need, who is
Okay.
facing deprivation, who has needs that are unmet.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, adoption is a way, rescuing it.
What does it mean to preserve something?
I didn't say preserve, I said prioritize.
What does it mean to prioritize
That's
something?
to put the focus on.
What does that mean?
It means to put the focus on already existing beings who are here, who are in need, over the unborn who has no needs.
Right, so if it is a moral imperative, according to your own definitions, to allocate scarce resources, which by your definition is evil, right?
What's evil?
The absence of resources and the absence of protection, correct?
Yeah.
So if it's not happy, it's bad. How do
It's
you
not
have,
just about happiness.
How do you have anything like goodness, joy, without the presence of evil.
You only need goodness and joy once you're alive. If you're not here, you don't need that. So that's what I'm saying. With
Right, this is what I'm saying, is-
prioritizing existing life, you can bring
Dude.
more happiness and joy to people's lives. So they're not languishing in a terrible situation.
So what you're saying is that, again, this is a very religious topic, and it's really interesting.
It doesn't have to be religious.
Of
I'm not
course it does.
religious.
Well, it's
We don't have to bring religion into it.
It's the only language that we have to describe it. But effectively, what you're saying is that existence would be better off if it never happened.
Yeah, I don't see why we need existence.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's why I'm saying you're stupid.
you didn't exist for billions of years. Are you sad about that? Are you sad about all those years that went by that you didn't exist?
I'm incredibly grateful for the time I have.
Right, and I'm glad that you're enjoying your time here. But had you not been given this chance to enjoy your time here, you wouldn't know otherwise.
What I'm saying,
Kids.
Yeah, we don't hate kids.
what I'm saying is conceptually, you don't understand that for there to be something as a moral imperative, for you to make any of these arguments at all, there has to be evil. Do you understand that concept?
Yeah,
It's like there's no color without black and white.
I'm not saying that. I'm not arguing for a world that's perfect. That's impossible.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're saying it's
I'm
better.
arguing for a better world, not a perfect
That's
world.
not a better world. That is people dying alone in South Korea because there's not enough people in the next generation to actually do anything.
People die alone here. People die alone everywhere humans exist.
Exactly.
And if you don't want people to die alone, then why do you want them to come into existence?
And that's why it's bad.
The more
That's why you
people,
have
the more
kids.
people who come into existence, the more people who are going to die alone. Not all children are there to be with their parents when they're
Dude,
older.
Do me a favor.
Not all people still have friends when they're
Actually
older.
go and read some proper literature to understand what you're saying, because this is nihilistic and Luciferian to its core.
If you want people to come into existence purely so someone doesn't have to be alone when they die,
No, don't fucking kid
you're
it.
using
Enjoy.
them as a tool.
I hope you go first.
My wife who wants to have kids soon is gonna kill me if I do that. Well, I mean, I want to have kids too. It's just like, but I totally agree with you guys. You know, the adoption thing. There's a lot of kids out there that need fucking adopted.
Almost like just in the United States alone, there's almost 500,000 children in the foster care system.
Yeah, I saw the sign. That's wild.
Yeah. Then you think about like all the orphans all over the world and non-human animals as well, like in need of rescue, and you know all the animals that are in shelters and.
I wish there were more options. Like, you know, I wish there was more funding to go toward that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It seems like we're just winging it. You know what I mean? Like, or like the government's like, here you go.
Well, even there's not enough funding. There's a lot of short staffing. There's just not enough facilities, not enough manpower in general, not enough care in general either. Like it's just the whole foster care system, for example, it's just an afterthought to most people. They don't really think it's not an issue you ever hear brought up. You can listen to like any of the biggest podcasts or
It's a good point.
biggest shows.
I listen to podcasts all day, every day, and I literally never hear anybody ever talk about that.
Yeah. There's just such an overabundance of life in need, and it's a shame.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I just had a thought because, like, I'm a vet, and there's like, finally, things are really starting to pick up for vets. Like, I'm building a retreat in North Carolina for vets with PTSD.
Nice.
Why the fuck isn't there? I'm behind you. Why isn't there like something like, I don't know, foster kids like kind of growing up and then starting a thing for foster kids? You know what I mean?
I mean, there are all kinds of like offshoot organizations that help with foster care. So there's like a big variety. So there's probably some stuff like that, but yeah,
I'm sure there are some, but you're right. There really does need to be a bigger conversation about this.
Yeah.
Because 500,000, that's wild. And it's,
Yeah,
I mean,
and then they
you got 22
age
a
out.
day, and 22 a day, you know, committing suicide in the veterans community. There's probably more than that in the foster child.
Yeah, and then
Like, a lot of them get damaged on the way up.
Yeah.
In the care system, like, you know, molestation and things like that.
Yeah,
happen
exactly.
All the time. So,
They've
like,
a lot of them have never been loved by anyone before. They've never been able to trust. They develop trust issues because they're constantly betrayed. A lot of them can't work even a regular job after they get out. Not a lot of college education. So a lot of them get into human trafficking. You know, obviously, usually involuntarily, but a lot of them go to jail, substance abuse, suicide. So yeah, it's just a disaster. There's very low success rate for people who grew up in the foster care system, and that's the thing. Like if people prioritize children like that, they would have such better lives, a much better chance at better lives.
Yeah.
And then they could also have a safety net because, like for example, I'm 36, but sometimes my parents still pay for things for me, like a dentist appointment, for example. Like I don't think I've ever paid for a dentist appointment out of my own pocket. And I think because they did have me, like I didn't ask to come into this world. I don't mind taking their money for some stuff and seeing them as like a safety net for me, because you know, life is expensive. It's hard. It can be hard to afford your own life. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people work multiple jobs and they're still living in their cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Especially these days.
yeah, and
I
then
was
there's
just thinking,
also a
like,
lot of
there really needs to, I mean, like, are you guys foster kids? Is that what, like,
No,
is that
no.
just, like, this
Thank
is a
goodness,
cause
no.
that you, like,
it's just
feel
something I
strongly about?
learned about some years ago, and well, I've always for like over half my life now I've been antinatalist, so I've been against human procreation, but my reasons for that have just stacked up more and more over the years as I've learned about more things, like when I started learning about how horribly animals are treated and how terribly it would treat the environment and how common sexual assault is. And then when I started learning about the foster system and just children up for adoption all around the world, and people having way more kids than they can take care of, then that started to become like a...
See, I can agree with you to a point, like, but, I mean, there are also good people having kids and good families and good people out there in the world doing good for the world. I think the issue is, like, we have a hate issue. That's what I think. I think we don't have enough love. I think if we had love and purpose in the world, people would have a lot more to live for and a lot less to, you know, have to subsidize with drugs and alcohol and sex and like distractions to distract themselves from like the bullshit. You know, I just like I
know
just unfucked my life like recently. So
it's
like
hard,
I'm
right?
Always, it's fucking hard as shit.
I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, life is a gamble. No matter what kind of circumstances someone is born into and what their parents are like, it still is a big gamble. You still can't guarantee what's going to happen to someone throughout their life stages, how much,
But
what
so
their
the
life.
fuck what? That's life, baby.
Yeah, but it's one thing if you
If you teach a kid how to fucking like take terrible things and turn them into positive life experiences that you can use in the future, like it's fucking hard as shit to do, but goddamn does that make you a resilient-minded human being. You know?
Right, but that's one thing, like that's good if you can like do that yourself, but it's a lot to push onto another person, and not all
Agreed.
people can handle that.
Right.
And I just think that's unfair.
Which part?
About like creating these risks for someone, these lifelong problems, series of problems. We always have something that we're trying to improve on, right? Or something we're trying to fix in our life. It never ends. No one ever gets to a point where they're totally satisfied, and even if they do, it only lasts for a little bit. We're kind of always going through cycles of dissatisfaction with different things.
What?
Well,
You know what the beauty part of this dissatisfaction is? The beautiful thing is like when you figure out how to overcome it, and then you do that, boom, that's a huge win. That's a life fucking, that's a like one of those things you look back at, you know, you have these like, not an obstacle, but a like pivotal moments in your life, you know? That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah.
I would have completely agreed
Well,
with you
it's
like
good that
5
you
years
have-
ago, but I think, I'm telling you, the purpose thing is huge. I found my purpose finally.
yeah.
And it's
Well,
like-
it helps if you have a purpose. Yeah.
Yes, it does. So that's where I'm coming from with this, because when you don't, it's rough, man. It's hard to like not go back to drinking, even like you're having a few good months. You've been so good, but then like you're at the beach, it's St. Patty's Day, everyone's having a good time. Like, fuck it, like what am I gonna do tomorrow? Like, you know what I mean? But like now I've got purpose, and like I'm like I don't want to do that because it's gonna give me a 2-day hangover. So like I'm better off da-da-da. So
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think if I mean, I know you said you're anti-natalist, but I assume there's like a point to that. You can't be like fully just no matter what, right?
Well, I don't think anybody should be having kids. Like I said, I think we should always prioritize life that's already here in need. There's we would never even be able to meet the demands of that. There's not even enough people out there who are capable and who desire to be parents and are capable of being good parents, who could take care of all the life that's in need, humans and other animals alike. So, and because living beings who are here right now, they have real interests, needs, feelings, and desires, whereas the unborn doesn't have any of that. And someone can't be harmed by not coming into the world, even if I know like you've had a lot of struggles in your life, but obviously you've had a lot of enjoyment in your life too. But had you never experienced that enjoyment simply because you were never born, it would be okay because you wouldn't know otherwise.
Yeah, it'd be neutral.
We only need to experience enjoyment when we are here, because we don't want to be, we don't want to go through life, through miserable circumstances over and over again.
You said you're 34 or 37?
36.
36?
Yeah.
So, at a certain point, I think at a certain point, well, everyone's different. Because at a certain point, I've finally gotten to the point in my life where, like, I really appreciate things, and I look back at my life, and I'm like, for instance, I got sent away to a boys' home where they used to beat the fuck out of us.
Ooh.
Like, you know that shit you hear about getting closed down? There's like a Netflix special.
Paris Hilton, yeah. She went to one of those too, Paris Hilton.
I mean, maybe.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
mine was fucked up.
There's a documentary about them on Netflix. It's not very good.
No, but like the point is,
I know what
if
you're
I
talking
hadn't
about.
done that, I think that wouldn't have made me I wouldn't have been as resilient as I turned out to be. It
Right.
fucking sucked. It was awful. But I joined the military a couple years later, and I went special operations, and I used that. Like, you can't escape from that fucking place.
Yeah.
People tried, and bro, they got fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
So like, they made a fucking lesson out of them for us.
Did you get kidnapped and put in there, or you got dropped off by your
didn't.
parents?
I got manipulated. My parents sent me to like, so I used to go to the summer camp, and my parents sent me to stay with the summer camp counselor because he had like this like youth group thing. It was like a church thing, and that was back when I gave a shit about that sort of thing. So I went there, and then like the next morning he was being super weird, and he like took a 2-hour drive, and he pulls in this place. And they had been threatening me for like a year. They were going to send me away, boys' home, da da da. My best friend went to a boys' home. I'm like, it'll never happen. And then what do you fucking know? They convinced this dude to like drop me off at this place in the middle of nowhere. And now I was there for 2 years.
Wow.
But if I hadn't gone through that, where I couldn't escape, it really like built my mental fortitude and my like wherewithal to be able to persist through tough times. I went through my class 6-0, my SWIC class, and that was Special Warfare Combatant Craft Room in the Navy. I went through class 6-0. We had 68 guys who started. We ended up with 10 guys at the end of 10 weeks, and it was tough.
Yeah.
But
I've heard
who knows,
about that stuff
maybe I
too.
maybe I would have rang the bell. Maybe I would have quit. But like I went into that knowing I was never gonna quit. It was never thought in my mind, because at least here they would feed us.
Well, because
You know
you
what
build up so much mental, physical, and emotional stamina that you can pretty much probably put yourself through any kind of situation almost.
I think kids need mentorship. I think kids absolutely need
I agree,
mentorship,
yeah.
guidance and shit.
Yeah,
so
I
like,
agree.
To a point, I agree with your antinatalist thing, but also I think like good people. I think we need more good, solid fucking people to like guide the others. Like, I mean, shit, all the kids that are already existing, right? 500,000.
That's what I'm saying.
They need guidance.
That's what I'm saying.
They
Like,
need
why don't?
guidance.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't we focus on them instead of the unborn?
we can do both. I mean,
Well,
there's a lot of countries out
theoretically.
there that are like, they're not even at replacement rate. So we've got kind of, for you it's probably a good thing. But for me, I'm like, shit, like Korea's like, or Japan I think it is like in a bad place right now.
That's what they. Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry, bro.
Oh, no problem.
I was going to catch the concert.
Oh.
What's your name?
Deeds.
Deeds?
Yeah. What
Cool,
about you?
David.
David.
Yeah, nice to
Good
meet you.
talking to you.
I got the card. I'll check it out.
All right. Thanks,
Good
man.
speaking with you, man.
Yeah. I appreciate the respectful dialogue.
Of course, brother. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.